Hi, everybody. I'm Jennifer Tryon. Welcome to Watercolor Wednesdays, Winter Watercolor Wednesdays. It is getting us through the drones these last few weeks of winter, doing all of these nice, beautiful, fresh colors, painting some flowers, some beautiful backgrounds. I've been loving seeing what you've all been posting. It's so fun to do something different, something a little out of the ordinary. And what we love about watercolor is that you don't need to be a watercolor artist or any kind of expert at drawing to have real success with watercolor. In fact, our special guest tonight has given us 3 exclusive drawings just for you guys to use here during Watercolor Wednesdays. And they're so exquisite. Maybe you've been following her on Instagram. She's at Urban Anna 20. I want to welcome Astrid. Thank you so much. Hello. Thank you for being here.
Hello.
Where are you joining us from tonight?
I'm from the Netherlands.
Wow. So what city are you in?
Heerenveen. It's in the north of the Netherlands.
Well,
so it's, 6 hours later than you.
Amazing. Yes, true. But we appreciate you being up for us and doing this with us tonight because we love your drawings and love watching you paint on Instagram. You're a beautiful artist. Tell us a little bit about how you got going. Have you always been painting? Is this your full-time job? Is this your passion project?
Well, it's a big passion, but actually I started just 2 years ago with watercolor. And it was during lockdown, and I had to sit at home, work also, so I wanted to do something with my spare time. And I started with calligraphy and eventually added some illustrations. And then the illustrations got bigger than the calligraphy, so I lost the writing and went on with illustration. So I use fine liner and watercolor. And well, I always had a love for architecture. Mm-hmm. And that's why I'm painting buildings.
Buildings. So let's just look at some of these. They're just gorgeous illustrations, and we've got them that we're going to be painting and starting painting one tonight. Are these buildings that you've seen in real life, or do you just look up like on Instagram or on maps or online? How do you get your inspiration for these? Are they places?
Yeah, of all places. I travel a lot. Before the pandemic, I traveled a lot, but now I'm going to travel again. And well, I notice all those lovely buildings. So England is my favorite country to visit, and France too. And well, friends and family also know that I do this, so they send a lot of pictures to me also. And well, on the internet, like I follow hashtags, shop fronts, and that kind of things. Cool. And on Instagram, I also do a lot of challenges. So the left one, the France, to the France, it was a challenge.
We can bring it up. We have that one,
yeah, that was a challenge. So somebody posts a photograph and asks other artists to paint this. So that's very nice. You can see all my other artists, fellow artists, see what they came up with. So that's also nice to see.
That's very cool. Do you remember what the hashtag is? Oh, there's the general store. I mean, this one in the pink is so gorgeous.
Yeah, I looked it up. I saw this one, I think, maybe on Pinterest or something. And I looked it up because I paint not only from the picture, but I look it up on Google Maps and Street View to see what had different angles. And I looked this one up, but unfortunately the pink was painted over. It's now a white building.
Oh,
yeah, it's in Manchester, this one.
Wow. Well, I love that you preserved it in pink. And then what about the Biscuiteers?
The Biscuiteers is, I think, in Kensington. Mm-hmm. It's in London. And I hope I will visit it this summer because I'm going on holiday to England, and I certainly want to go to this shop and buy some biscuits there.
And would you bring them the drawing and drop it off?
Yeah, well, the originals get sold very quickly, so I think it's when it's not sold, I will bring it with me and I'll give it to them. Yeah.
Oh, that's so great. That's so great. So a lot of us who are participating in Watercolor Wednesdays are, we've got full-time jobs other places. We love all kinds of different crafting, sewing, paper craft, card making, scrapbooking. We're doing this to kind of do a little something different. No one here is a professional. So we've got those 3 drawings that you talked about as drawings, and we've put them onto watercolor paper for everyone. Where do you think we should start, and what do you think we should know if we were to, start painting these ourselves? If we wanted it to look like yours, I mean, I guess it doesn't have to. You could go any way you wanted with the colors.
Sure.
But what do you think?
I think you should start with Autour de France. I think that's
okay.
Yeah, that's the one with the less details. And well, I think that's the best drawing to start with.
And when we're working on something like this, do you think it's important should we look at your painting as we're going? I mean, I guess if we really love what you've done and want ours to turn out the same, we could, turn over the card that's in our kit, and we could be paying attention to the colors, or you could go a totally different way.
Yeah, sure. Or maybe change something. Maybe you like to change the colors on the awning, that it's white and red, maybe.
Yep.
Or you can change the color of the wall if you want, but you can stick to the original too.
What we've got, some paint palettes that we've been using. Maybe you're using watercolor pencils. We've also got lots of liquid inks that came in the kit. Those, I think, would require a little bit more mixing for something like this. I would kind of suggest either coloring it with the pencils or using a paint palette like this. What kind of paint do you use? And does it have to be, artist grade paint, or can you use whatever you've got?
Yeah, and you don't have to invest in very expensive palettes. Just one palette is enough. And you can, I started with a palette, it costed 10 euros, and I painted with it almost a year. So you don't have to invest in expensive materials for this. Well, if you like to mix colors, you don't even have to have many colors in your palette.
You could have tubes and literally be making your own.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I personally don't use any colors right off the palette. I always mix them with I make greens a little bit greener with yellow, or I mix blue with red and it gets purple. So I like that most. It makes you more. It makes it more personal for you.
Yeah, I think so. Do you like to tape down your paper, or do you leave it?
No, I personally don't tape it. No. I like it like
loose.
Try to get a little bit straight, but not too straight.
Right. That freehand look is really so beautiful. If we're starting with the Tour de France, do you recommend, I noticed in some of your videos, you use very small brushes sometimes.
Yeah.
And where do you think we should start here?
I always start with the largest surfaces. So you should start with the wall, and with the awning. If you decide the awning should be white with another color, you can paint the whole awning first in the white color. Mm-hmm. So you could mix a little bit of gray and a little bit of ochre, and then a lot of water, and then you have a light beige color.
Okay. So I'm going to start that. I'm going to make sure my brush is clean, because I forgot my mister here to get my paint palette sort of activated. So I'm going to just put some water with my brush down. Do you ever use pre-filled water pens like this sometimes? I think for something like this, you need to keep moving around, so I wouldn't suggest it. But do you ever use anything like that on the go?
Yeah, I tried them, but I'm old-fashioned in that way.
You're old-fashioned.
I like the brushes.
So I'm just going to put down a little bit of, you know, a little bit of like sort of, I've got like a peachy color and a little bit of green to kind of make this wash in brown. I'm also going to make sure I've got lots of paper towel around. It's not like we've only got one copy of this Tour de France, so I want to make sure I'm protecting it and putting my brushes down somewhere where I can kind of protect them a little bit. So I'm just going to go in here and start. Do you keep your paper dry, or do you lay down like some water first so that the paint can catch it?
No, I paint on dry paper. Yeah,
and I'm using kind of a flat brush here because, you know, we've got lots of space.
Yeah.
So, but, you know, if you don't have a flat brush, use what you have. You know, one brush can certainly fill in. I like how, you know, sometimes in the corners, we've got a little extra pigmentation.
Yeah.
Maybe walk me through how you get your, is it purposeful? And I'm going to go right over top of the letters here because this is going to dry light enough that I can go over it later. And certainly not worry about, you know, trying to outline every single one.
Yeah, you should stroke to the bottom so that a lot of pigment stays on the bottom. Yeah, that looks nice.
Mm-hmm. That little extra shadowing, and then kind of pull up or bring down, depending on how. And then, you know, at the corners here, now mine's looking a little more brown, but I'm okay with that. That's fine. That's the color I've got, so no big deal.
No.
Do what you can with what you've got, and it's going to be beautiful.
Yeah. And just stay loose with the sides. You don't have to get them too straight.
Yeah. And
you have to...
by loose you mean, you know, on the edges. The color just kind of disappears a bit or fades out.
Yeah, and because it's a watery light, you don't even see it. So it's nice this way.
And then carry the color. Where should we carry this color? Down into the walls down here, but a little more shadowed, do you think?
Yeah, a little bit darker.
A little bit darker. So I'm going to mix it a little bit more.
The same color, yeah.
Yeah, just a little bit darker. I don't want it to get too green.
And then if you see at the original, the top of that wall is darker than below because of the shading of the awning.
Right. Okay. Now, it's also a bit smaller, so I'm going to just switch to a bit of a smaller brush.
Yeah.
That'll help if you're...
Yeah.
If you have the kit, then you've got a few different... when do you use round and when do you use kind of square brushes?
I use the flat one for the big surfaces, and then I always use the round ones.
Yes.
Except when I'm painting bricks, then I have a small flat one.
Right. So I'm using a small flat one here, and in some of the other drawings that we've got that we'll probably get to next time, we'll use this little small flat brush to be putting in our bricks.
Yeah.
And talk to me a little bit about the bricks. Is it a bit of a labor of love, the bricks?
Oh, well, that depends on the way you paint them. There are a few ways. This is the most time-consuming method. You paint them one by one, and with the pink shop front, I have drawn the lines with a fine liner after I painted the wall. So that's the easiest way. And then you have a method where you draw out the bricks. That's the method I used on Tour de France at the pavement. Can you see?
Yes.
That's
on the pavement?
Yeah, there I drew the bricks one by one. So you can do that also. There's 3 different ways. It depends on how much time you got. But I like the most time consuming way the best. It's the most beautiful, I think.
I think, you know, if you want something to really, you know, turn out and be something that you cherish, the more you work you put in, you know, often you get the reward for sure.
Yeah.
Okay,
and,
so I'm getting
Jennifer.
Yeah.
Stop. Don't do too much in it. That's I had to learn also with watercolor.
Less is more.
Less is more. Yeah.
Less is more. I believe in that too.
2 strokes and leave it, and leave the magic of watercolors.
Okay. All right. This is good advice.
Yeah.
Should we come down to the awning or should we go to the brick here? What do you think should be next?
Yeah, go to the awning. Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to do it blue, similar to what.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no. I'm thinking similar to what you had done there.
Yeah.
I love that blue. I'm going to take it off of my palette, like right off of my paint, and put it onto my my palette here so I can get a bit of an idea of what it's going to look like first. And I've got a couple shades of blue. I think this one maybe is a bit. All right, here we go.
Okay, just on top you have the shading, so it has to be a little bit darker, and then you go stroke down, and then it will be lighter.
And do you think flat brush or maybe round brush for this even? Because
well, flat works also.
I'm going to go in with the round because I think it's going to help me. And in terms of strokes, what do you think? Like, kind of don't keep going back and forth with it, right? Just kind of bring it down.
Yeah, use enough water. Maybe it's too saturated with what you use now. You can
a little bit too much.
Yeah, too much. Like this, and then you can add a little bit tip of blue when it's still wet. Just there where your brush is now. You can add a little bit dark, and then it flows like that.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah.
So you mentioned starting during the pandemic with some calligraphy and lettering. We love that kind of stuff around here too. But it looks as though you've been painting for a lifetime. Did you really just start just a few years ago?
With watercolor. I painted, I painted with acrylics and oil, but no shop fronts. I painted animals and like children's art. But this is the first time I used fine liner and watercolor.
So in our kit, we've got a fine, when Astrid's talking about fine line, we've got a fine line marker in our kit. That's the black lines that she's drawing here. So if you were to sketch something on your own, do you use the process? I kind of went out of the lines here. Do you use the process of like getting it down with pencil and then going over top with the fine line?
Yes, I sketched the first outlines of the drawing with pencil, and then I'll add the details with fine liner. So I won't sketch it the whole drawing with pencil, just the outlines. So you get everything in proportion. The door, the awning. I will sketch the lines of the gutter, but add the details later with fine liner. And be sure that the fine liner is waterproof, by the way.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. You don't want to smear, or as soon as you bring the water to your drawing, to have it suddenly all run.
No.
The same is true if you were to, Astrid's got a bunch of her drawings available as coloring sheets on her Etsy page. And if you're printing those out yourself at home on watercolor paper or on regular paper, you are going to want to make sure you laser print that so it also doesn't run. If you use inkjet, the ink will run. So just a tip, if you're going to download anything from her Etsy page, we'll put up a link where you can find more of her artwork if you're wanting to color a bit more. I mean, these are gorgeous.
Yeah.
You know, even though we didn't draw these ourselves, it doesn't mean we couldn't paint this and still give it as a gift to someone, or hang it in our own home in some way, and not to feel like you didn't create this yourself. You know, Astrid, you gave us a good helping hand here, but you know, sometimes in sewing too, people feel like if they embroider or if a machine does too much work for them, then they didn't make it themselves. But you know what? Like, I think if you're taking the time and choosing the colors and putting your own love into it, Astrid doesn't mind if you claim this painting, right?
No. And even if you print it on watercolor paper and paint it your own, it looks like you did it all by yourself. So I don't mind, no.
Exactly. And if it's not perfect, if it's not turning out exactly like Astrid's, like my lines are a little wonkier than hers for sure. You know, I gotta admire your ability to really get straight with the watercolor. Give me some tips here.
Maybe it depends on the paper I use. You have with watercolor, you have different types of paper. You have cold press and hot pressed.
Yes.
And I love to use cold press watercolor paper. And
yes, we've got this printed on cold press.
Okay.
In your kit, we've given you some hot press too, so that people could feel the difference.
Yeah.
And we've talked a little bit about that. And yeah, paper can make the difference.
Yeah, it really does. So I think that, well, the paper helps and the amounts of water you use, but you have to learn. You have to go to do it every week, every day, and you get used to it, and you
get better.
And you know how the paint works and how the water works.
Yep, like anything.
Yeah.
Go back to my first one here and just get a little more at the sides, activate that. So in between here, I guess we could just leave it white, but I noticed it's sort of a bit of a creamier color on yours. So should we wait until the blue completely dries before we go back in with the lighter color?
Yeah, it has to be completely dry.
Yes.
Because otherwise it smudges. So
yes,
wait for it.
Yeah. So I'm going to maybe go down to the cobblestone now.
Yeah, you could make a basic layer if you want, and let it dry, and then paint the stones over it.
And what do you like for mixing and getting a good gray?
I love, that's my favorite color, Payne's gray. That's a kind of gray with a little bit of blue in it.
Yes, I was just picking up some blue to add to sort of I mean, I guess it's like a bit of the brown mixture I've got up here. Well, what else do you like to add to it?
When you paint the stones,
yes,
I always use a minimum of 3 colors.
Yes,
not more, not less. So it stays a whole, but you have a bit of variation in the colors.
Okay.
So, with this, you have big stones, so you can add gradients in the stone itself, or you can just paint stone by stone. So start with a color, and then paint a few, and then add more water and a little bit of more brown, and then you can paint another stone.
I added a little bit of red just to cool it down a little bit. So I've got a bit of green, a little bit of blue, a little bit of red, and I'm coming up with this sort of gray here. And make sure you've got lots of water in there for that first layer. All right, I'm going to try with my larger round brush first and see how it goes down. If it's pooling, a little too much water, sometimes I kind of bring a little bit of paper towel if it's pooling too much, just a little corner.
You could always use paper towels. Even if you make a mistake and it's still wet, just put a towel on it and it's you're good to go.
So talk to me a little bit about the base layer. That's what I'm doing here on the stones. Maybe we can go in even a little bit closer up. Tell me about what the base layer means and then how many layers you would do on top.
The base layer is the color of the mortar between the stones.
So not the actual stones. You want me to be doing the mortar first?
Yeah, that's the easiest way.
Okay.
So just paint the whole thing and then wait for it to dry, and then you can color the stones one by one.
Right, and then in between the stones, we'll kind of have that base.
Yes.
Okay.
And then you can paint the stones with the 3 colors I've talked about.
Yeah. And would you wait for this base layer to totally dry and then do them one by one?
Yeah, you should dry. You should let it dry completely.
Yeah.
You can add you can use a hairdryer for this if you're impatient.
Hair dryer, or if you are a card maker or scrapbooker, you might have a heat gun. Those will work. Just
And
okay, I've got
you have to let it dry, this one.
Let it dry. Okay, so should we move on to some of the little details, or what do you think?
Maybe you can paint more big surfaces. Try to fill out those. So the window paints, you can do that with blue. With a blue grayish.
I've got some gray already mixed down here, so I can go and build off of that. Adding some blue. And I'm using my small round brush here. And now, do you do the same kind of base layer around all of the panes and then go in afterwards and darken it up?
Yeah, that's the final. The final step is to make things darker by shading it.
Okay, so I'm going to go in and I'm kind of encapsulating all 3 here.
The shading is always the final step I do when I make a painting.
Okay. And what about the glass? Should that be its own, or should we water it down a little bit more, or just go ahead with the same layer?
But you should wait until it's dry. The window sill.
Okay. You know what I really think sets a lot of your artwork apart, and especially when we're talking about watercolor, is all the tiny little details. Oftentimes with watercolor, we see like large florals or, sort of landscapes. And we don't think about painting like the tiny little flower pots like you've got on your windowsills and things like that. And so I feel like that really sets your work apart, because it's like you haven't been afraid to say, you know what, I'm going to take something that maybe traditionally isn't a watercolor style, and I'm going to use watercolor for it. And I think that's why it stands out so much, is that it just looks so gorgeous. Those things brought together.
Yeah, I like the combination, the detailing. Yeah, you could do this in other mediums too, like pencil or markers or acrylic. But I like the fact that watercolor has the possibility to make gradients. So in larger surfaces, you can, like you did on the wall, you can't do that with markers, or not the way that watercolor works.
No, and watercolor is so forgiving.
Yeah, but it's I have had to make use of it, and I have to. It was difficult in the beginning because I'm a perfectionist. You can see it in my drawings, and like you did in the beginning, I painted, and it didn't turn out nice because I had overpainted it.
Yes.
I had to learn to let it go and let it dry, and that was a big step for me. But I like the combination of the details and the perfect lines.
Yep.
And the freedom of watercolor, and that it dries. It's like it has a mind of its own.
So when you're doing large surfaces like this, and you're wanting that gradient of color, is it your advice to go in multiple times, over time? So for example, like with the walls and stuff like this, rather than trying to achieve the shading immediately, is to do a wash and then to do a deeper wash in just, some areas, versus trying to do it all at one time.
Yeah, you should. Well, with this one, it's a white wall, so I shouldn't go over it again. But like with the pink shop front, that pink I didn't do right away. That's 2 or 3 layers of pink.
Okay. And I noticed, like on the pink, it's not, super dark in any one corner. It kind of washes around, and it's darker, and like above the left-hand side window, for example.
Yeah.
Where there's a little darker area, or above the top of the door on the right. It's a bit darker.
Yeah.
And just at the very right-hand edge, it's a bit, it's very concentrated on that side as being a bit darker. How do you achieve that?
Well, that's the fact that cold pressed watercolor paper dries very quickly. It dries faster than hot pressed. So when you paint this kind of big surface, you have to paint very quickly, and especially with like with one brush and with one puddle of paint. And if you add water or another pigment, then you get those spots above the window and by the door. So on that spot, I used with my brush a little bit of more water, and then it became a puddle on the surface, and then, well, it dried like that. But, well, a wall is never perfect, so this one not also.
I'm just mixing up some brown here to do the surface area of like the floor on the inside of this shop, and then some of the cupboards that are on the inside of the shop. I notice when I'm looking at your painting of the Tour de France, when I'm looking inside the cupboards, just inside the walkway, there's sort of a mix of brown, and then on the right-hand side, you've got a bit of a wash of gray for a bit of shading. So I'm going to do like that base layer in brown, and then go in afterwards with a little bit of gray on top.
Yeah. You could, or with the spot out, the room behind the window, the black one. I used there the paints gray.
Yeah.
And then I painted the outsides very black and left the middle part open, and then rinsed my brush, and then with just a wet brush connected the outer parts of the black.
Let the water do the work.
Yes.
That's good advice. Let the water do the work.
Yeah.
And I noticed in the cupboards you've kind of got, it almost looks like a little stained glass effect. Where I'm working right now around the wooded area, if we thought this was like wood around. Are you just kind of taking a couple of shades, or did you wet the inside first and let the colors merge?
On the purple and the blue, that was I just 2 wet dots of purple on the right above corner and blue on the lowest corner, and then let the water work.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to leave that base layer over there, and I'm going to come in and do another base layer here.
Yeah, you can paint the wood brown.
Yeah, and not to panic if at first it looks way lighter than what you want your final to be, right?
Yeah.
It should look lighter at the beginning because you're going to go over it a few times.
Yeah.
So how long does it take you to do one of these pieces?
Well, the sketching part is about 2 hours. And the painting about 4.
Okay. So we're not going to sweat it if we don't finish right within this hour or so that we're watching this video.
No.
In fact, it's sometimes nice to just watch, pick up the tips, and then go ahead and do your own. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even me, I think we'll kind of get through the main base layer, and then I'll go through afterwards and, really start to, add in the detail.
Yeah.
I've got a similar color brown here I'm going to bring to the tabletops since I'm working with this kind of similar color.
Yeah.
And
it's a lovely color.
Yeah. Do you always do a base layer and then always go in after, or is there ever a time it's like one and done?
Yeah, well only with small details, I just paint them.
Small details, just paint.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Would the backs of the chairs and the seats of the chairs count as small detail, or should I wait on those? What do you think?
I painted it in one time.
One time, okay. So
yeah. Well, as you can see at the original, well, how do you call it in English? The thing where your back is against the
seat back,
yeah, it's lighter than where you sit on. So I painted that twice.
Oh, okay. And now I'm going in on the roof line here, but I'm going to be careful. Some of the blue is pretty dry, but I don't want it to be smearing up. How often are you doing things where it's like that you would call a mistake, like where you're totally starting over again, like that didn't work? Or is everything salvageable? Can you save everything, or are some things just like, nope, that was not how I thought it was going to turn out?
On a painting, I never had a painting turned out like, well, I'm gonna rip this and throw it away. No, sometimes, well, art is art. You give it your own twist, and it's okay.
Exactly.
So you can't do everything. My drawings are not totally realistic. So
maybe it's a good lesson in, things don't have to turn out the way you thought, but that doesn't make them bad or not good, or, you know what I mean? Maybe it just turned out differently than you anticipated, or different from, you know, mine already looks different from yours on here. That's okay.
Yeah.
You know, let's, if we never saw this one, if we never saw this one ever, we might think this one was quite good.
Yeah. Yeah. I call it artistic freedom.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. I once misspelled a sign on it was a sweet shop. Yes. I spelled little with 2 T's and 1 L.
Okay.
And nobody noticed it. But one did and told me. I didn't see it, but somebody told me, and I said, "Oh, I'm so stupid," but people liked it anyways. And I said, "Oh, it's artistic freedom."
Yes, exactly. Okay, so I'm going to do this darker, blacker spot. If we don't have a black paint, how do you darken right up? Add more blue, add more green, more red?
I think that blue makes it cooler and red makes it more warmer. It's what you like. I like the more grayish, bluish kind of black. In contrast with how you want contrasts in your drawing. So the wall is warm, is a warm color.
Yeah.
The awning is blue. That's a cold color. So you want to mix those. So you could use some blue in your black.
Yep. And you suggested going dark at the corner.
Yeah.
And then rinsing your brush.
Yeah. Use enough water so it can flow together. So on the other side also, and then. Yeah, there it goes.
And don't you love that process?
Yeah.
It picks it up. And don't overdo it, right? Let it.
No.
Do you move your page? Or just let it work?
Yeah. No, you could do it, but I don't. No.
Okay. So I think a lot of the walls are pretty dry. It does dry pretty fast. How long do you let yours dry before you go back over it again?
Well, I work on one spot of the drawing, and then I go to the other side and let that one dry, and then I mix this, like drawing one spot and let it dry, and then go to another spot.
Right.
But sometimes I make a mistake and paint too fast over it.
Uh-huh.
But when I'm too concentrated, I get back pain, so I have to stop.
Yes, it's true. We really do hunch over, or at least I do, and get my face like so close to the paper so I can really see what I'm doing here.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I don't think you're alone there for sure.
But it's very addictive to paint.
It's a lovely, lovely thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, oftentimes I know a lot of people who are watching are kind of sewers first. We have a lot of people that are doing this for a little bit of fun, but normally that they are sewing or they are paper crafting. And this is something, you know, different for them. And I hope people just kind of give themselves some permission to not have to create anything for anybody else. And that this is just something fun for them to do and just enjoy the process.
Yeah.
So often we're like, oh, well, I'm going to make this for this person, or I'm going to do this for this, you know, for whatever reason. But maybe this process can just be for the fun of it.
Yeah. I forget everything around me when I'm painting. It's very therapeutic, I think.
Yeah.
But that's with all handcraft, also with sewing and needling and everything. You have to concentrate on what you're doing and forget all the things around you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I think this is pretty dry. This is pretty dry. Maybe I'll go back with my... Now, I don't want... So taking a look here, should I come in with just some wet water or some more pigmentation and wash this over again? I'm beyond this being a white building, but I could probably achieve a little more contrast in the kind of warm tone that it's taking with the paint that I've got here. What's your advice for going back over here?
Well, I think it's perfect.
Oh, good.
I don't think you should go over it. You'll ruin it probably. I think this is an ancient old Paris wall. It's okay.
It's okay. All right. I like that. Okay, so I'm going to go in with. Could I start painting my red sign?
When it's dry, you could. Yeah.
Yes, or maybe I need to go over a little bit of the trim here. Yeah. Now that with some darker.
And after this, you can add some greens. That has to be a basic layer also.
Okay, on some of the plants.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that'll be fun. Getting into the little details. And do you stay fairly pigmented when you're doing something like these letters? Or do you know?
Yeah. But again, you better do it twice than one time and it's ruined.
That's good advice. Better to do it twice with a little less paint.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you want to see the black?
Yeah, we do want to see the black.
Yeah.
So we don't want it to be so dark. And not too much water on something very small like this. And I'm just using the very tip, almost the tip hair of the brush here.
Yeah, you're doing great.
Thank you. I know sometimes it's good to stop talking and just
yeah.
Now reds are tough because they want to run. So I'm just going in with a little smidge of paper towel and picking it up a little bit so it doesn't get away from me.
When you think you have a lot of too much paint, just go and dip.
Yes. And uniformity or things looking the same is not required of watercolor. It's fine that one of the letters is a little lighter or a little, that's kind of the beauty of it.
Yeah, I think so too. It's like in real life, right?
Yeah.
That's why I'm also painting old buildings, not modern architecture. I don't like them.
Yes, they're much more loose.
Yeah.
It lends itself to that kind of style for sure.
Yes.
I noticed on your Instagram you say a new reel every week. So does that mean you've kind of made up your mind to do a new painting every week? How do you do it?
Yeah, I do. It's yeah. I like I said, it's like a kind of addiction for me.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I try to make one reel and one illustration per week. So, but in total 6 hours. That's possible.
Yep. So if you're not following Astrid on Instagram, you should. You can go and find her at Urban Anna. So URBANANNA 20. And do you put it on Facebook too, or just Instagram?
My Instagram is connected with Facebook, so when I post a reel, it turns out on Facebook also.
Okay, so where can they find? Because some people will only be on Facebook here.
Okay, that's also Urban Anna 20.
Okay, so they can find you on either, so that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely will be following along and watching for your new buildings and feeling a little more connected to what we're seeing. Isn't it so cool about social media how here I am in Canada and you're in the Netherlands, and here we are talking about watercolor
Yeah,
painting.
it's amazing.
Yeah, the world just gets a little smaller, doesn't it?
Yeah. Without the World Wide Web, I didn't get so much followers and people noticing my art.
How did that work for you? Did you kind of wake up one morning and look at your page and go, "Hey, what happened here?"
No, it went gradually, but it went fast. It went fast.
Yeah.
I was the beginning of last year. I had 10,000 followers, and then by the summer I had more than 100,000 followers.
Wow,
so that was very awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
But this isn't your full-time job, is it?
No, I work as a webmaster for the local government here in Heerenveen. So that's 3 days a week, and then the other days I'm painting.
Wow, that's the best of both worlds for sure.
Yeah.
All right, I'm almost done my first layer here, and you can see some of the letters are definitely a little darker than others because I've started one and then moved on to another, and there's been a little less paint on the brush. So once this dries, and if I wanted to do like another layer over top, I'll keep a watch for which ones are already very pigmented and which ones could use a little more.
But I think it's great. Like those letters are on that building for maybe 100 years. So
yeah,
it's no problem that one is more faded like the other one.
I wonder if the bicycles ever go by this shop. Do you know anything about this shop?
It's a restaurant, I think.
It's a restaurant? Okay.
Yeah. Probably.
We are fans of the Tour de France in our house, so we tend to watch it every year.
Oh, okay.
It's sort of a bucket list thing to do, to go and watch from some little city in France. But that's a very big trip for someone who lives in Canada.
Yeah.
Very far.
But you should. It's like a circus when you see that.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's like a whole circus coming by, and then the people on the bikes. That takes about 5 minutes, and then they're done. Then it's done.
That's it.
But the people in front, like all the advertising people and
Uh-huh.
the helicopters and everything is very nice to see.
That's very cool. All right, I'm just doing another layer over top of this little lantern here. I've got my page upside down, but do you tend to turn your page? I'm always turning my page.
Oh, yeah. Well, you have to do what's most comfortable for you.
I like to lean my wrist, and I'm always hesitant to lean my wrist on something that might still be wet.
Oh, yeah. You have to be careful for that, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That happens to me also, that my sleeve is going to the white
Yes,
with the wet
yes.
painting, and then, well, there's tissues for.
I'm going to go over and do a little second layer on the table tops here. They're dry, and some of the cupboards. And hopefully we can zoom right in here, Karen, because I want people to see just how rich it's going to look with that second layer. So we've got that base down, and then let's just put that little second layer. It doesn't have to be on the whole thing. So we've got pigment on the one side. I'm just rinsing my brush and then finishing the rest with just the rinse. Yep. And just how much richer it will get. And if
the paint's still wet, you could add a little touch of darker brown just behind the bottle with the flower, so you get a little shaded.
Yeah. Definitely, that looks great. How often are you changing to clean water?
Not often enough.
I know.
No, my workspace is in the attic, and I don't have running water there, so I'm a bit lazy in cleansing everything. So I should maybe do it more often, but I can see it when I'm painting and everything turns grayish and brownish. Then I think, oh, I have to rinse my water.
Oh, that's funny. We're all in the same boat. Even the pros, you guys. All right, we'll add a little extra brown here and let it wash over. It takes so little paint to really make a difference.
Yeah, if you have one palette, you can do it with years. The only reason why I have more palettes is that I want to use another color. I want to use another brand, but well, you can paint with one palette for a long time.
Yes, for years and years and years. In fact, like my very first cheap, this paint palette right here was the first one I got like years and years, like probably, I don't know, 15 years ago, 10 years. And it's still like, there's some that are really getting down, like the pinks really getting down. But just spritz it with a little bit of water and it's still one of my favorite ones.
Yeah.
It wasn't expensive. And I honestly think it's because of it's the one I started with, why it's my favorite, because I lean on it so much. And I've, spent a lot of money on other palettes, like this and tubes and I always kind of tend to go back to that one.
Yeah, me too. You have your favorite colors. And with the brands also. I have a few favorite brands where you can buy your pens separately also, so you can try some if you like it.
What's the palette that you like the most, or what do you use most often?
I have a mix. I have a custom-made palette now for myself. So I don't know if you know the brands Royal Talents.
Yes.
And White Knights. That's
I haven't heard of White Knights, but I have heard of Royal Talents.
And Winston and Newton is also
yes, of course,
one of my favorites. So I have some whole pens and some half pens. I never use tubes. I only use pens.
The tubes, it's funny that you say that, because when I first started, and I'm no pro for sure, but when I first started with watercolor, I had that little palette, that the one I was telling you about. And then I kind of thought, oh, I guess I better graduate beyond this. I guess I better get tubes. And I do have, you know, a bag of tubes here. And I thought, you know, if I'm going to be good, I better use tubes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know why I thought that. I guess because they're more expensive, or it just seemed more professional. I'm not sure. But using tubes, I got to say, did not make the painting any better.
No. I think it's also convenient, those palettes with pens.
Yeah, for sure. And it's easy to know just by looking what your base color will be, or close to.
Yeah.
Whereas with the tube, it comes out so pigmented. I find I waste a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can take it everywhere you like.
That's right.
I like it that too. When I'm on a holiday, I take my palette and some paper and a fine liner, and that's it. Then I can draw and paint.
I've brought a lot of watercolor with me to, we play a lot of hockey here. That's at least my family does. And I spend a lot of time at arenas and rinks waiting, and, you know,
yeah.
And I've spent a lot of time watercoloring in the bleachers, waiting for, you know, games to start or kids to be done. And
yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go in with a little more brown as a second coat on my cupboards here. And, you know, when you're going over your base layer, how many more times do you go over? Just until you like it, or until you've got, you know, some sufficient depth where it's looking not just like a wash?
Yeah. Well, you should. Well, it definitely doesn't should look like a wash. So you definitely want to add another layer. Mm-hmm. And when it's still wet, you can add a little bit darker. So 2 layers are sufficient. Or you can add a 3rd layer if you think that's the way to darken something. But it depends on what you want to paint. Like the wall, it was with 1 layer is sufficient. But with those wood colors, you would like to look, you want the color to be more darker and more richer.
Yeah. And you can see even in that, in the entryway here, how much richer that's starting to look compared to, you know, the stones even in the front. Yeah. Let's spend a little bit of time, because I won't keep you too much longer. Let's spend a little bit of time on, I'm going to darken up some of these stones and kind of maybe give some a warm wash and some a cooler wash. Or
yeah, just use some brown and some gray and some ochre.
Yeah.
So paint them like you do now. So another one just below, and maybe some darker colors below the table.
Okay.
You get a little bit shading there. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can kind of see I'm pulling from, like, I've got some, I'll just move so you can see. I've got some like bluey, dark kind of gray blue over here. I've got like a warmer brown here, and kind of like a little mix of everything. I can kind of pull from both and bring them down in. You don't have to feel like this color is gray, this color is brown. It can be a mix, and that's how you get that great variation in colors.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to just mix it up and use what use what you're blending.
Yeah. And that's the most naturally, I think, those blended colors.
Yeah.
Like in nature, white is never totally white and black is never black.
That's right. But it is a good tip, you know, to think about, oh yeah, underneath the table would be a little bit darker than the ones over at the side. So that's something to think about. Where would the sun be hitting this little patio, you know?
Yeah.
For sure.
That's also one thing why my work stands out, is because I'm working a lot with shading.
Well, and I think it's something when you're first starting out that you kind of hope you can achieve effectively, is the shading. And you kind of think, oh, there must be some kind of magic way you can achieve the shading. I think it has a lot to do with patience.
Yeah, and just imagine, like you said, where's the sun hitting? And well, you can see now already in your drawing that you can see the depth already.
Yeah, it's coming along.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now here I've got a little too much brown. Like, that's not what I want. I don't want it to match the table quite so much. So I'm just taking a bit of paper towel, and you can lift it right up.
Yeah.
And just with a little bit of water, you know, you're going to be able to correct over it. So when I bring in, you know, a more like a shade that I was really wanting, we won't see that brown very much at all. And just kind of go over it, and no one will be the wiser. What if you get a little like dried pooling mark? Like here, I've got a little bit of how do you?
That's watercolor. If you see my original,
yeah,
I have here the original. Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, let's see. Oh. Let's see what you've got. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the same. Okay, here behind the table. That's also
yes,
you see a spot of dry watercolor. Well, yeah.
So it just happens.
So what? Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Is there any kind of correcting it, or are you just going to make it worse by adding more water?
Yeah, don't correct it. You could try wetting the paper, but when it's dry, it's very difficult to correct this. So don't try.
Yeah.
Just say it's artistic freedom.
Yes. And I think watercolor is one of those mediums that if you're somebody who likes things to be really perfect, this is going to be a good exercise for you in letting go and having it be what it is, because the paint's going to go where it wants to go.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of watercolor.
Mm-hmm. You know, I really like your advice of doing just that base wash across your large surface, letting it dry, and then bringing it in. You know, when you're doing something like florals, you know, you don't normally do that, or you would let the brush kind of carry it, and you know, whatever happens, happens. Mm-hmm. But here, when you're coloring something in,
yeah, it's a really great way.
Tip. And now, like, look at how, you know, the variation in color in the stones is really starting to come, you know, to life.
Yeah. Well, you should never make the basic layer too dark. That's one thing. And you have, the basic layer has to be the same gradient as the color you put on it. You understand? So don't use a light blue basic layer and then go over it with yellow.
Right.
That doesn't work.
Right.
But if you think, well, this doesn't work, you could always paint the stones and then paint later on the mortar between. That's also a possibility, of course.
That's true. That's true. how do you feel about, I think it's probably a mistake to, well, mistake, there's no, you know, it's all relative in terms of what's a mistake. But do your mixing in your palette, not on your, it's fine to let like water merge, I think, but how do you feel about like putting one color down and then bringing another color in on top? That's going to give you,
it's especially
like
with the stones now.
Here.
Oh
yes,
yeah,
like
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with the windows, but now with the stones also, you can add a little dot of ochre maybe, or a little bit of brown.
Yep. Because I would imagine when these stones were being laid in like 1549 or whatever, right? You know, they were getting pulled right out of the ground and plunked right in front here.
Yeah.
A little bit too much water there. So what are you working on these days? What can we get a little, do you have a little sneak peek of anything in front of you, or what are you challenging yourself with these days? What's going to come down the pipe?
At this moment, I'm working on smaller ones, tiny houses.
Oh.
I posted just today, I posted a reel about it. And well, I'm also making like, let me show you this one. This is my latest one.
Oh, yes. Oh, look at all that beautiful greenery, and that door is so nice.
Yeah.
Is this a house or is it a shop too?
This is a shop in the Netherlands, in Maastricht.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What kind of shop? What do you know about this shop?
This is like accessories, furniture and candles and that kind of stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe we could, wouldn't it be, I mean, I can sense how exciting it would be to have found something on Pinterest or online that you architecturally like the look of, and then being able to visit there yourself in person would be just such a thrill. It's sort of like,
yeah, that is very, very nice. Sometimes it was on a holiday in France. I made also a shop front, and a year later, we went through that village, and I saw it, and I was so excited. I said to my husband, "I did that." It was so nice. Yeah,
that is very exciting.
Yeah, yeah.
I could liken that to if you saw a restaurant on television on a show or something like that, and then you got to eat there. That's sort of fun, you know?
Yeah, that's very nice.
I'm going to go in and do these window panes, sort of like you suggested with, you know, having them look a little stained glassed. I don't want them to pop off the page or anything. You know, they still need to be a little bit muted.
Okay.
But I'm going to take a little bit of blue like you have in yours, a little bit of red and blue to make a little bit of a purple, and just go in and see how it mixes together. We'll let like we say, the water do the work, but
yeah.
Do like a little wash of one. And then
when you think the wash is too white, you can also add a little bit darker in the edges. But you first have to wait until and look and see what the watercolor does.
Yes.
Like this. Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah. It's working already.
Yay. And then maybe since I've got it already on my brush, I'll move over here. And then bring in a little of that purple. Let it do it. So let's get into, just before we finish, let's get into a little bit of the tiny little bottles and flowers and things like that. I love that they look, you know, very hand-drawn and, you know, imperfect, but you totally know, you know, that's a wine bottle. That's you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when we're in doing that, just bring a little green to it or bring a little brown to it or whatever?
No, those things, especially the details like the bottles and other things that are very pigmented colors, and just paint the object.
Right.
And
So
add some shading later. But like bottles, you have emerald green maybe in your palette. Use that one to paint the bottles.
Yeah. So let's go in. I'm going to do a little very tiny. Hopefully we can get nice and close, but I'm using just the I don't want a ton of water because I don't want it to spread.
No. This is almost like coloring with pencil.
Yeah.
Do you have also jelly rolls in your package or not?
What's a jelly roll?
That's a white marker.
Oh, yes. Yeah? It's here.
Okay.
Yes, the jelly roll. It's right here.
Yeah. So you can, when the paint is totally dry on the bottle, you can make a dot right above, and that gives the flickering of light in the bottle. That makes it like glass.
I'll do a couple here so that we have time for it to dry, and then I'll go in with that because I'm going to spend more time than what will be live here finishing all of these details. I just want to make sure that we're going over how to touch every part and then let people kind of go and do it on their own. Mm-hmm. These greens and all these little details like that are really going to be what like jumps off the page, right?
Yeah, because the walls are a bit boring, so you have to make the color with the details.
Yes. I flung my paintbrush on the other side of the table there. All right, I got to pick that up. Okay, I'm going to go in with some like warmer greens, kind of almost like olivey like tone for some of those plants up top.
Yeah.
And do you like mixing the greens or do you like keeping it all the same tone?
No, because plants don't have the same color either. So
now hold on a sec. Before I do these greens, I do think I probably should go back in and do a second layer over the window panes and the glass so that it can dry before the greens go on.
Yes, you could do that.
Yeah. So I'm just getting on my flat brush some gray tones here and not too crazy much water. And I'm just going to go. And with glass, do you kind of mix in a little bit of blue sometimes and then have the meat, or how do you like to do that?
Yeah, very watery blue. But well, yeah, that's the nice color. Yeah.
I'm going to switch. My water's pretty muddy.
Yeah.
I have a couple jars here. Oh. But use whatever you've got. Even I'm going to put some clean water just in the lid.
So it's a very sunny day and it's reflecting the blue sky like you do now.
Yes, that's nice. And don't sweat it if it gets onto the little leaves or onto the petals, because you're going to let it dry before you come in with any of those brighter colors anyway. And then you can just kind of go over it.
Yes.
If someone wanted to buy one of your paintings, do you sell them, you say?
Yeah, I sell them on Etsy.
Okay, we'll put a link to your Etsy shop so everyone can check it out.
Okay, I'll be selling. I do them in bundles. So
okay,
now they're probably 2. But in the end of April, I'll be selling more of those, more originals. So people have to be a little bit patient, but then Tour de France will also be for sale.
Oh, okay, nice. So if we really butcher it and we want the original for ourselves. We're just going to try our best here and not be too hard on ourselves if it's not totally perfect.
You can buy the original, hang them together.
There you go. Oh, that's cute. All right. I'll let those dry a little bit. I do need to go in with a little bit more. Do you ever finish and go, oh my gosh, I completely missed that spot?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to go a little more shaded just on the edge of the drain pipe here.
Actually, I have a phone case of my own.
Uh-huh.
Of an illustration.
Okay, let's see.
And
oh, cute. Oh, I love it.
So, but when it was ready and it got to me at home, I saw, oh my God, I forgot to paint those two things. Yeah, but that's because there's so many details you forget.
Yeah. Yeah, it's easy to do for sure, especially with stuff like this where there's so many details, like the little. I love it. There's detail everywhere, but you want to make sure you're not missing anything. And if you do, and you publish it already and get it made into a phone case, well, you just have to live with it.
Yeah, you have to look at it every day.
And it's just a reminder that it doesn't always have to be perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to go around some of the insides here with a little extra shading.
And what also helps is just leave it alone and take a look at it another day. And then you see all kinds of things you forgot or you have to do again.
That's very good advice.
Yeah.
Very, very good advice for sure. Okay. Would you go over the blue again?
No, I wouldn't. You would ruin it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You could add a little bit of brownish, yellowish on the white stripes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And then as a finishing touch, you could draw a shading just below the rim when everything is dry.
Just below the rim?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, just here. I want to make sure the yellow that whatever's going to be in between the blue isn't too, it's just very subtle. So I'm just just adding tons of water.
Yeah. And you don't have to paint all the white, just the beginning, just below the rim.
Just below the rim. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can leave a bit of white. Yeah. Yeah. Great.
It's really just kind of dirty water here that's going on. Right? I mean,
yeah.
It doesn't need to be, and that's the thing, is like you said at the beginning, less is more. Subtle for especially things that are meant to look white or offer that contrast. It doesn't take much. All right, we're coming along. We're coming along.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going to spend the next hour or so just coloring in all the little tips of the flowers and the rest of the little flower pots, like the terracotta kind of color that could go on some of them. And you could do like a base layer and go over with a little bit of a wash on some of those pots, that brown terracotta color. and I will show everybody well, if you're following on Instagram, I will post my finish, my final version, no matter how it turns out, and let everyone take a look. And I will certainly have it on next week. And next week, if you want to tune in, we're going to we'll do another building, and we're gonna take lots of Astrid's advice in terms of doing the base layer, but also come in and do those bricks. So Astrid, while we've got you here, just give us any final advice on when we go to do the bricks. Consistency, different colors. Do we stay, going in a row? We're going to have one of your videos that we watch where you're doing some brickwork, but
yeah. I have a reel on the Deadworks general store that's about the brickwork. So I'll show in that reel how I do this.
Yeah. I'm excited to really dive into the bricks, because being able to add that kind of detail to something. The other thing is the white pen on the brick is really, really fun. So I'm going to just make sure it's running here. I'm going to bring that into the little wine bottle like you suggested, just for a little, it can kind of catch the light.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a lot. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, but it works. It works. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's just here and there. And, the white pen, it's a little too early for me to be going in with the white pen yet, but we will make sure that at the end, and maybe that's how I'll start next week, is just doing a final, few dots of the white pen, so we can be seeing where we could be shading. And certainly when we're doing the general store, that white pen, is it on every single brick, or not every single brick, but some where the light's catching, like in the middle, and over the windows and things like that. If you didn't quite get enough shading, you could add a little bit of a white line. And it's there. When you look right up close, you'll see all of those white lines, but when you look at it from afar, all you know is that it's got like this great depth. Yeah. And I guess that's sort of the magic of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's with the white jelly roll and the fine liner, you can get, like simple supplies, you can get very nice results.
Yeah. And do you ever go over top of, after you're done painting, do you ever go over top and, thicken anything or make it a little more straight or perfect, or do you just let the paint lie?
Yeah, I never go over it, because the fine liner smudges when you go over the painting. So no, I don't do that.
Leave it as is.
Yeah, when I want to alter something, I do it with the paint. So add a little bit shadow with a gray or a darker color, but not with a pencil.
Right. Okay. Well, Astrid, thank you so much for all of your advice and for taking us through painting your beautiful Tour de France, and we'll be thinking about you and maybe needing you. A little voice of reason on our shoulder next week.
Kind of help, so ask me.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here, and thank you so much for allowing us to put our own touch on your little works of art here, and being connected from across the world, and giving us your time. We really, really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me.
It's been so wonderful. Thanks to all of you for watching tonight. I'm sure you've been inspired, whether you've started your own painting or not. You'll be a few hours in before you start to really feel like, okay, this is happening. And then, like Astrid said, you could leave it, come back to it, leave it, come back to it. You want parts to dry and then come back with another layer. And that's how you're going to get that depth, so that our own paintings can kind of take on the richness that we've seen in Urbananas paintings. So be sure to follow her. We'll put the link up for her Etsy site. And I don't know. Thank you so much for your support. We appreciate it. All right. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you next week. Bye.